verse 1. I might get to verse 2. Let me turn this down just a little bit. I might get to verse 2 and I might not. But Romans chapter 12. Verse 1. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Amen. So let me just start tonight by asking a question. Are you a hearer of the word or a doer of the word? You see, it's really an important question, because there are people who love to read the word, especially the commandments and the laws, and they try to do them. And then there are those who pick and choose which parts of the Bible they want to do. Amen? Or even which part they want to read. But it's only when you become a doer of the word that we have really learned the word. So Paul writes here in verse 1, I beseech you, or I urge you, by the mercies of God. I urge you by the mercies of God. Y'all, let me ask you, is he merciful? Amen. This term comes from a classical Greek captain exhorting troops who were about to go to battle. And Paul is telling us that we as Christians are about to enlist in spiritual battle. And that's when the test comes to find out if we're hearers of the word or if we are doers of the word. So Paul says, I beseech you, I urge you, I appeal to you. And then he uses the word therefore. Therefore. I beseech you, therefore. Paul is saying, therefore, or that is, I appeal to you on the basis of what has gone on before in the first 11 chapters. Therefore. Now, what has gone on in the first 11 chapters? I want to tell you that the Christian life is built on the first 11 chapters of Romans. The total sum of chapters 1 through 11 are the mercies of God. You know what? I want to name this tonight, and she may have already put it up. Deep in mercy. Deep in mercy. God has been merciful to us through his death, burial, and resurrection, and because of him we are justified by faith and reconciled to God, and we have the hope of everlasting life and everlasting joy. So here's what Paul is telling us. We should be a doer of the word by showing mercy. It's not pick and choose that you can have mercy on who you want to have mercy. No, we're supposed to have mercy on everybody. Amen? Oh, well, I'm going to pick the ones I want to have mercy on. Is that us? We do that sometimes, don't we? Well, no, I want to have mercy on this one, but I don't want to have mercy on that one. Then we need to go back and read the first 11 chapters again. Because God is a God of mercy, but he also wants us to have mercy, exceeding mercy. Y'all really, as Christians, mercy should be oozing out of every pore of our body. Because God was merciful to us, so we in turn should show mercy. How do we get so stubborn? How do we get so stubborn that we forget or we fail to show mercy? How come we all of a sudden become the know-it-all about who we can show mercy to? Well, if we really know all about it, we should be merciful to everybody, shouldn't we? Is love genuine or not? Should we love everybody or not? Man, this is tough right here, isn't it? We're supposed to love everybody and have mercy on everybody. Let love be genuine. Give to the saints. Bless those who persecute you. Weep with those who weep. Associate with the poor and lowly. Repay no one evil for evil. Never avenge yourself. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. Build your lives on mercy and become merciful. And you know what we do? We pick out the parts of this that we want to do. Yeah, okay. Let's feed the hungry. Woo, let's do that. We can be merciful to the hungry. And then we can't love and have mercy on our own brothers and sisters, the saints of God in the church. Well, they ought to know better. Well, we ought to have more mercy. Woo. Come on. Just because we know better and we don't do better sometimes, still we need a little mercy. You know, it's just so, sometimes you hear people and their mercy is just, they just have no mercy for people, you know. Well, you know, that's God, I do this and I do that. And we say that all the time. But we need to have a little mercy, don't we? Weep with those who weep. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Repay no one evil for evil. Wow. And sometimes as Christians, we just want to pick out the parts that we like or the part that we want to do. We want to have mercy on the hungry and the poor. But somebody who persecutes us or does us wrong, I'm not having no mercy on them. So you can say that we are hearers of the word, but we are not doers. We heard the word. We know what the word says, but we're not doing it. Come on. I got a feeling that's what is really wrong with the church. The reason the church is not full is there is not near enough mercy. We can talk about there's no miracles. We can talk about God's not moving. But I really want to tell you now what's wrong with the church is the saints of God don't have enough mercy. Come on. Families and friends of ours have messed up and we won't forgive them because they made a mistake. We show them no mercy so they won't come to church. And we're tough on the world too. It's not just our family. We're tough on the world. Bless God, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And if you don't do that, then we're not showing you no mercy. Y'all, sometimes they're really just babies. They're really babies and we need to have mercy on them. We expect them to be as full grown as we are, and they're not. Amen. How many times should we forgive in one day? 7 times what?
7 times 7.
Amen. And how many times is that in one day? 490? In one day? That's in Matthew 18:22. You got 21. That's good. That's close enough. 21. Then came Peter. Go back. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often should my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Question. And Jesus said to him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. 490 times a day, 176,400 times a year. You know what he's really saying? It's not the amount of times. It's an indefinite amount. You know, it's really not a set amount of time. We ought to forgive. Forgive those who've sinned against us and said things about us. Forgive them. Aren't you glad we're merciful people? Oh, wait. Mercy ought to be oozing out of us. You know, if somebody says, I've done wrong, or somebody says, please forgive me. There shouldn't be a question. What about even if they don't even ask you to forgive them? Forgive them anyhow. Come on. Aren't you glad God's not like we are? You know, here's the thing. The Bible's, verse 2 of this talks about being conformed and be renewed and all that stuff. The world tries to mold us into their ways, don't they? They've got sayings like, well, 3 strikes and you're out. That's the way I feel about it. They messed up 3 times. They lied to me 3 times. Or the world's got other saying, I'll get even with you, I swear I will. Huh? That's what they say. Or they say, an eye for an eye. Well, I'll just tell you right now, I'm not a cheat turner. They might hit me. They're not going, you kill my dog, you better hide your cat. Where's the mercy? See, we've been around this world, and the world's got all of these slogans, these things that they say, and we just take all that stuff in. But we're supposed to have mercy. Who's the Christians? Where's the Christians, I should say? We are the Christians. We are the followers of Jesus Christ. We're supposed to be Christ-like. We're the ones that are supposed to have mercy. Now the world says, you fooled me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, or something like that. God is so merciful, and we are to be like Him. Think of His mercy. He adopted us. Amen? He justified us. He set us under grace, not law. He gave us the gift of the Holy Ghost. He gives us help in our afflictions. And He shows us all the time that He is faithful. And Jesus did all of that because we were perfect. No, we ain't even close to being perfect. Jesus did all of that for us so that we would in turn do the same for others. Wow. Let's go a little further. Paul says here that our new life is supposed to be full of mercy. But before you think that it's all about mercy, you need to realize that it also has to do with worship. He said, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service, or which is your spiritual worship. Which is your spiritual worship. Before you can give yourself away in mercy to man, we must give ourselves away first in worship to God. That's what he's talking about in these first 11 chapters, is we must first become worshipers of God in order to have mercy. We cannot have mercy if we don't have God. Wait, hold it. We're on to something. Maybe the reason we don't have the mercy is because we really ain't got God. Huh? What happened to our mercy? We lost our mercy because we lost God. We quit communicating with God. We quit having a relationship with God and fellowship with God. We lost God, so now we have no mercy. Why don't we have mercy? Because God is a God of love and mercy. If we don't have Him, we don't have love and mercy. I want to tell you, if we leave God out, then our mercy won't go very far. Amen. It will just be mere social agenda. Well, you know, let's feed the community. Whoa, that's good. Social agenda. Let's do that. It's not because of mercy we want. It's just social agenda. It's the right thing to do, you know. But real mercy says we're going to feed the poor. But we're going to help them. We're going to take care of them. But we're also going to look at all the situations in life, not just the poor. We're not going to pick and choose what we're going to do. But we're going to help everybody. We're going to have mercy on everybody. Now, that's tough sometimes, isn't it? Our deeds of mercy will be just deeds if we're not expressing the worth of God by our mercy. Our deeds, if they're just making people feel comfortable or helping them feel good and on their way to everlasting punishment, then we really haven't accomplished anything yet. We can show them mercy, but if the mercy that's we're showing doesn't show God, then they're really not getting anything out of what we're doing. But what we're doing should show, first of all, that we are Christians, that we are of God. And it should be, our mercy should be pointing them to God. Without the hope that they see God or Christ working in us, we're just doing good deeds and there's really not any mercy. Our mercy is not mercy sometimes. It's just a deed. So Paul says, you must put worship before mercy. I want you to know the Christian life is worshipful because it's defined as merciful. If we are not worshipful in our behavior, that is, if we are not making much out of God's mercy along with our behavior, then we are not giving people what they need. You see, we've got to have good behavior in order to show mercy. If we got a bad attitude or we got bad behavior, then there's really we're not showing any mercy, are we? A merciful lifestyle depends on a worshipful lifestyle. If we worship God, if we have a relationship with God, if we're in the Word, then our merciful lifestyle is going to deepen in it. So let's see what Paul means by a lifestyle of worship. He says in verse 1, he said, I appeal to you therefore, brothers, by the mercy of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. So what is spiritual worship? Paul tells us that it is presenting a sacrifice to God. And he says to present your bodies as a sacrifice to God. Now, y'all, you've got to understand, this is the language here of the Old Testament. When they came to worship God in the Old Testament, they brought a sheep or a goat or a cow or a pigeon, right? As a sacrifice. It was an offering to God. Amen? Now, there were different kinds of sacrifices, but at the heart of it was that sin demanded punishment. And the slain animal, y'all, represented God's willingness to accept a substitute so that the worshiper might live and have an ongoing relationship of forgiveness and joy with God. But all of the Old Testament believers knew that the blood of bulls and sheep and pigeons could not take away sin. Hebrews 10:4 talks about it. But rather it pointed to somebody who could take away sin. Who was that? Jesus. Amen. He is the final sacrifice for sin. Amen. So God, when He said, I want you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, He was not talking about us coming and laying ourselves on the altar. Come on. Jesus brought an end to the Old Testament sacrifices for sin. He finished the great work of atonement. All we have to do now is just trust Him for that great work. So when Paul says that our worship is to present our bodies as a sacrifice, he's not saying that we've got to die and atone for our sins. But he gives us 4 words that should give us an understanding of what we need to do in worship. And they are bodies, living, holy, acceptable. 4 words. Now notice this. Paul say body. He says bodies, doesn't he? He says not singular body, but bodies. And I believe, and others do too, when you research this out, that he's talking about our mind, heart, spirit, our body. And he calls them bodies. Because he gets very clear in verse 2, be transformed in the renewing of your mind. So he's not just talking about our body. He's talking about the different parts of our body. The point is to stress that your body counts. Your body counts for God. You belong to God. Soul, mind, and body. Amen. And so we become bodies, but your body matters to God. Present your bodies. Present everything about you, your body, soul, and mind. Present it to God as a living sacrifice. Now listen to me. How many of y'all are living? How many of y'all are breathing? Thank God. Now you might be thinking, why would God be interested in my body? Because it's overweight, it's wrinkled, it's achy, it's diseased, it's impulsive, nervous, it's unattractive, nearsighted. I could go on. So what kind of sacrifice would this body be to God? I mean, the Old Testament said it had to be a flawless sheep. Y'all, I got to tell you, I'm not flawless. I ain't talking about you, I'm just talking about me. So I got to tell you, I would not measure up if it had to be a perfect body that I'm offering up to God. The sacrifices of our bodies is not a sacrifice for sin. Jesus took care of that, which is why bodies like us or like ours are acceptable. In fact, Peter makes that clear in 1 Peter 2 and 5 when he says, offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God. And then he adds, through Jesus Christ. I want to tell you, it is because of Jesus that our sacrifices are acceptable. So we need to put that out of our mind, that our body will ever deserve acceptance with God, because it won't. But rather, if you are acceptable, it will be because of Jesus Christ through His perfection, not your perfection. Not your flawless body. That's why we shouldn't say, well, as soon as I get everything in order in my life, I'm going to come to God. Ain't never going to happen, because you ain't never going to be perfect. You ain't never going to get everything worked out. Of course, the devil will see to that. Here's what he means. We are not acceptable to God because of how we look, but rather it's because of how we act. It's because we are not hearers of the word, but we are doers of the word. It's about how we act. I got to tell you, there's a whole lot of people that won't be saved because they don't act right. They don't have mercy like God. The body is given to us to make visible the beauty of Jesus Christ. You see, there's nothing beautiful in this body. But what makes us beautiful is the mercies of God. And when we start serving God, people will start coming to you and say, what's different about you? How come you're different? How come that didn't bother you? You know what you're doing? You're showing the beauty of God, and you're having mercy. So if we have mercy, then all of a sudden we become beautiful. Wow. But with no mercy, we're pretty ugly. Has your teacher or anybody ever said to you, don't be ugly? Man, I hated that. That really got on me. When my teacher said, don't be ugly. That just that just really got me somehow. I don't know about y'all, but that really just tore me up. Don't be ugly. That just, oh. But you know what? When we don't have mercy, we are really being ugly. Our whole self shows up. All the flaws in us, the mercy that we don't have, all of a sudden shows up because we don't have that. We don't have that mercy, that goodness of God in us. We're no longer beautiful because sin is taking control of us. We're allowing Satan to work through us instead of the mercies of God. Present your bodies a living sacrifice. What's living about us and what's moving about us is God in us.
Yes.
Mercy's gone, God's gone. Amen. If we're not showing people mercy, then I want to tell you, God is gone out of us. And we need to get to the altar and say, Lord, I need your mercy back. I need a relationship with you, Lord. I need that relationship back. If we can't forgive our brothers and sisters, and we can't forgive people in the world, our mercy is gone. God is gone from us. No, somebody's here tonight. The beauty of Christ is the beauty of love, not the beauty of looks. Amen. Now, before you think I'm talking about outward beauty again, I'm not. Isaiah 53, 2 and 3 describes Jesus like this. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrow and acquainted with grief. The beauty of Christ is not the beauty of the outside man, but it's the beauty of the inside, the mercy of God. His beauty was the beauty of sacrifice, and ours should be. The beauty that we have would be a beauty of sacrifice, that we have given ourselves to God and are full of his mercy and grace, and therefore we should give that mercy and grace to those around us. But they got on my last nerve. Pray for more mercy. God doesn't demand our bodies because he wants beautiful bodies or muscles. He demands our bodies because he wants models of mercy. Wow. I wish we could think about that. It's not about how good looking we are. It's not about how much muscles we got. But the beauty that God wants us to have is the beauty of his mercy, that when the world sees us, they can say, there goes one that's full of mercy. It's not, oh, wait, look at that holy woman. Look at that holy man. Now, what makes us holy? Oh, Lord, that was that's not a holy thing. What makes us holy? God in us. Oh, Lord. God's not interested in whether you look like Britney Spears or Mr. World. He wants visible, lived out, bodily evidence that our lives are built on his mercy. And just like worshipers in the Old Testament denied themselves earthly treasures, they gave up their best sheep, their best goats, their best bulls, and they carried them to an altar to sacrifice. We should deny some earthly treasures or ease or comfort and carry ourselves for Christ's sake to places in this world like our homes, our church, our grocery, our neighbors, anyone that needs mercy. We should present our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, full of mercy. Amen. Notice Paul says a living sacrifice. Every act of your body should be living in an act of worship to God. Our body should be a demonstration that God is our treasure. Everything that we do should be showing that Jesus is more precious than anything else. So he says, holy. Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. Look at Romans 6:13. Paul says, neither yield ye your members as what? Instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourself unto God as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. So he's saying, give your eyes, your tongue, your hands, your feet, your mind, your emotions, your thinking to God. That's what makes your body holy. When you give your body to do right things or righteousness and not sinful things. When you do all of those things, then you are presenting your body holy unto God. A body is not holy because of what it looks like. And I'm not saying you can run around half naked. I believe in modesty. A body is not holy because of its shape. It's holy because of what it does. Amen. It is or should be an instrument of meekness and mercy and peace. And when we have that in us, then God says, you've arrived. This is what I want. This is a holy body. Wow. You're full of mercy. You can have mercy on those who don't even need or deserve mercy. Wow. There's a whole lot of people who don't deserve mercy, but we're supposed to be merciful anyhow. Just as God is mercy and gave us mercy that we didn't deserve. He forgave us even though we didn't even ask, as one man said, for forgiveness. I didn't ask God to forgive me. It don't matter what you had. He already paid the price for you to have forgiveness. Here's some examples where the body is used as an instrument of righteousness and mercy. And mercy it's called a sacrifice. Hebrews 13:15. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God. What? Continually. Well, just wait, hold it. Just wait. Just when I feel like it. I want to be a sacrifice to God just when I feel like it. But Brother Grace, you don't understand what they've done to me. Come on, y'all. Are we doers of the word or hearers of the word? Well, today I just want to be a hearer because I want to get back at them. What we need to do is go pray a while so that we have the mercy that God wants us to have. Come on. Where did I get to? That is the fruit of our lips. Sometimes that's all we got is the fruit of our lips. Giving thanks to his name. But to do good and to communicate, forget not, for with such sacrifice God is what? Well pleased. Amen. So what is acceptable to God? We talked about that. Present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. What is acceptable to God? If the sacrifice of our bodily life is holy, then it's acceptable to God. And y'all, all of my life I've heard it. Holy is no facial hair. The man can't wear short breeches, and a few other things. No earrings in their ears, and no nose rings, and that's holy. That's holy living. That's not holy living. We need to have the mercies of God in us. We need to have mercy, just as God had mercy. And holiness is not long hair and dresses and no makeup on women. That's not holiness.
Amen.
Holiness is, those things are really convictions, y'all. That's what they are. And it may be that you can't stay straight. You can't live for God without doing some of those things. But holiness is honoring God with my body. And it has nothing to do with what I wear. Holiness is honoring God with my body. How? Being full of mercy. so that others can see the mercy of God in me. I tell you this though. You start modeling mercy, and the next thing you know, there'll be some convictions that you'll have but you don't need to force them on somebody else. These are your convictions. Holiness is honoring God with my body. 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20 says, you are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So what? Glorify God in your body. How do you glorify God in your body? Woo! Oh, hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. I glorify. No, that's not how you glorify God. You glorify God in your body by putting on mercy. Taking on mercy and being merciful. Everywhere you go, being merciful to people. Wow. You know, it's a whole lot kin to patience. Merciful is a whole lot kin to patience, because you got to have patience. When all of a sudden you're waiting on somebody to back out of the parking place, and somebody else whips in there real quick, guess what you got to have? Mercy and patience. Yeah. When somebody says something to you real bad, grit your teeth and have patience and mercy. But y'all, when somebody that you love says something to you or does something to you, your children, your grandchildren, that's all right. I know you didn't know what you was doing. Boy, we're so merciful. But when it's somebody that's not kin to us, oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, let's just be hearers of the word, not doers. No. Let's be doers of the word. Let's not just take parts out of this. We need a pair of scissors. No, I don't. Let's just cut that part out, though. Let's tear that page out there. No good. We ain't going to do that. Have mercy on everybody? You got to be kidding me. That jerk. Look what they done to me. Let me just ask you, how many people can we win by calling them jerks and fussing at them and cussing them out? And, you know, how many people can we win like that? Unless we do that and then go back to them later and say, look, man, I was way out of line. I'm sorry. That takes a lot to do that. But you know what? There's some of that godliness that you lost that may take a long time to ever get back because you blew it. You may be forgiven, and you may have asked forgiveness, but that's up to them whether they forgive you or not. And y'all, everybody stand. And how many of y'all have ever said, I forgive you, and then you bring it up later? Y'all ever done that? And they say, you forgave me, but you're also supposed to forget it. Yeah, the Bible never says anywhere that we forget it. Didn't say it. He forgets it. But we can't. It's in our mind. But we can forgive. We have to forgive. But we can't forget. Because how did I get off on this? Once we get hurt, it's hard for us to forget it. But we can forgive by having mercy. But we're never going to forget it. People say, you're not supposed to bring that up. You're supposed to forgive and forget. The Bible doesn't say that. It does not say that. But we are supposed to forgive. And the only way we can forgive is to have mercy. And we can maybe ease the forgiving forgetfulness part if we don't do it no more. That's good preaching, right, guys? Lord bless you. Sunday morning, be here, bring somebody with you at 11 o'clock. Let's have a great